Hello there, it's Sarah from Paper Lovely. Thanks for joining me today. I am back with two more holiday cards using the Altenew Cozy Spaces stamp and die set. So I'm going to be making two slimline cards for you today. And we're starting out here by getting everything stamped on our first card. We're going to start out with the basket pot. And that is 2 layers. The lighter layer is Close to My Heart ink toffee, and the darker layer is espresso. And then we've got, this is the largest of the plants in our set. We're going to do the base layer of that in Close to My Heart fern ink. And you'll notice that as I'm doing these, I don't want to shift around too much. So I am not necessarily putting a lot of pressure on my stamp, but I am holding it in place to allow that ink to really soak in. That way I'm not double stamping too many different times. I don't want to give any leeway for even the tiniest shift of my cardstock. This second layer here, we're stamping using New England Ivy. That's also close to my heart. And then we will finish up this top layer, this sort of darkest layer. It has a little bit of blue in this ink as well. And this is from Stampin' Up. It's called Garden Green. All right, first one done. I then decided I needed a little bit more color on this card, something to kind of give a base to my little vignette that I'm creating. So I have pulled in the stencil, one of the stencils. There's actually a 4-pack of stencils included in this kit. And I laid that out to kind of create the idea of a rug that I'm going to end up sitting my lamp and my chair on as well. Now I went ahead and I've used one of my blending brushes here to fill that in using some Simon Says Stamp Steel Blue ink. And there I had a few little spaces around that pot that weren't quite filled in. So I'm going to add some mint tape down and just quickly fill that in. We are layering things over top of this, so it doesn't have to be perfect, but I'm trying to get it as close to perfect as I can. And that little bit that's showing will not be too big of a deal. So this started out as the base size of my card. I decided I wanted to have a border around this one. So I am trimming off 1/16 of an inch from each side of this. I think I actually took 1/8 off of the top, just so I didn't lose that white border beneath my rug there. We're going to stamp out our sentiment. This is in 2 pieces. So we have the scripty sending, and then underneath that, I will add the tidings of comfort and joy. And I am using my trusty Simon Says Stamp Intense Black ink for that. Now we'll go ahead and finish up our scene. I'm going to pull in one of my lamps and one of my chairs. I'm going to attach the bottom portion of that lamp using some of my art glitter glue. And then my actual lamp shade, I'm going to put a pop dot behind. And that gives some really nice dimension, really makes it look like that lamp is kind of floating in the middle of the room. Lastly, I will add some foam dots to the back of my chair. As you can see, I am running very low on my large foam dots, so using lots of those tiny little ones. And we'll go ahead and press that into place. On my inside panel, I'm going to stamp out Stay Warm and Cozy. And then we will add some art glitter glue to the back of our panel. That is not the ink bleeding through. That was my first attempt at lining up the basket, which did not go so well. So I simply flipped it over and tried again. I will press that into place, making sure I've got an equal border around all four sides, and then also making sure that there's no bubbles, and that is down nice and smooth on my card front. I'll then add some ATG to the back of my inside panel and place that on the inside of my card base. And that will complete card number 1. For card number 2, I want this to look like a snapshot. You're looking at a portion of the room that you're in. So I'm going to do that by having our plants go off the edges. So it looks like that scene will continue on. We just aren't seeing the full picture. I'm going to start off by stamping out one of my ceramic pots or cement pots using my mink ink from Close to My Heart. And then I will layer on my Fiddle Leaf Fake stamp. The base layer of that I'm doing with Fern ink. The thing you have to be careful with when you're working on the edge like this is to not let your paper get into the excess ink. So I'm going to wipe that up right away, even before I clean up my stamp, and get that away from my paper. Here we have got layer number 2, and we're going to stamp that out using New England Ivy. And just a small portion of stamp number 3 is showing, but again, we will use New England Ivy for that one as well. And lastly, we'll fill in the dirt in our pot using toffee ink. Now we're going to work on the other side. I have laid out my lamp and my 2 chairs just to give me an idea of how much of that area I want to fill in. So I'm going to start with the large sort of palm leaf plant, and I'm using the largest cement planter for that. I'm going to have that be sort of more in our foreground. So I'm going to have that go off the side and the bottom of my card. And then I will add in the smaller pot, again looking to give a little dimension. Now, I will tell you before we move on, what I should have done is made a cutout of the palm plant, because when I ended up stamping this, I stamp in the palm plant first, and then our rubber tree plant, which is darker, is stamped second. And it's not awful, but looking at it later when I go back to it, I can tell that the leaves that are supposed to be further back are actually in front of the leaves that are supposed to be further forward. I don't think most people looking at this would see it, but my suggestion to you, if you want to recreate this, is to stamp this palm plant on a scratch piece of paper or on your Inkadoo masking paper if you have some, and lay that down when you stamp your rubber plant. That way it will look like the rubber tree is behind this one. We're layering this the same way we did on the previous card. We're going to use our Fern ink, and then our New England Ivy, and then our Stampin' Up! Garden Green. Now this here would be the point where you would want to add your mask over that first plant and then get started stamping your rubber tree. I've stamped out the stem using our toffee ink, and then I will use just the garden green on its own for the rubber tree plant. But I will stamp that 2 times to get it nice and dark. Lastly, we're going to line up our sentiment. I'm going to go ahead and take this entire thing off. What I'm going to do is, we put a lot of work in getting these plants stamped out. That took a lot of time. These are not low effort cards. So I'm going to take a piece of scratch paper and I will stamp out this sentiment. Mainly, I'm just making sure that it is nice and straight before I stamp it on my actual card front. Again, stamping this sentiment with my Simon Says Stamp Intense Black ink. Since we have everything out, I'm going to go ahead and stamp our inside panel at the same time. And for this, I'm using Warm Wishes and Cool Vibes. Now we'll go ahead and get everything attached to the front of our card. Again, starting with my lamp, I'm going to place some art glitter glue on that base there. And then of course I will pop up the lamp shade using some foam dots. You will see in the final pictures that I show, I decided I wanted some of the blue from the first card I made, which was in the previous video. I just felt like it needed a little bit more of a pop. So I do add a blue shade on top of this yellow shade, and I leave just a sliver of that yellow sort of peeking out behind it. It gives it some really nice depth, and again, the idea of a lamp with that yellow. But I think you'll see in the photos the blue really, really pops beautifully. Again, with the idea that I want the right-hand side to be a little bit higher, a little bit closer to us than the left-hand side, I'm going to go ahead and just glue this orange chair directly onto my card base. And it really does look like that lamp is kind of hanging in between these 2 chairs. And then I will pop up this purple chair using my foam dots just to accentuate that dimension. I'll add a little bit of glue and get our pillow placed on top of our chair. And then I lost a little bit of film here, but I did go ahead and attach that panel to our card base. Here I'm adding ATG to our inside panel, and I'll place that on the inside here. And that will complete card number 2. Here are a few close-ups of the finished cards. In the description box below, you'll find my blog post, which has additional photos and links to the supplies I've used. If you enjoyed the video, please leave me a comment or a thumbs up and subscribe for more. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.